Are you squashing yourself? I know, sounds a little bit weird, but that is the subject that this week's episode guest on Making Conversations Count, Trisha Lewis, is an expert on. She helps people like yourself who sell themselves a little bit short with unsquashing themselves.
Every moment you're spending in this negative state, you are squashing yourself, you're holding back, your body language is becoming squashed. So, self-awareness, and then the reframes. Okay, if I do this, I'm worried that this will happen.
Here's Wendy's take on this episode's guest.
Trisha Lewis, the queen of the unsquashed.
I do love that. It is true what you said in the conversation about that makes absolutely no sense, but it makes perfect sense when you know what it's talking about. So, communication coaching, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, the boring version versus the impact version. So, yeah, communication coach versus unsquashable. And I think Trisha has a really good insight on the awareness of what holds us back in conversation. And even demonstrated it herself by messaging me the day before because she'd had that minor operation on her face and her nose. So I think it was a really important message that even she sometimes squashes herself because she was thinking outside of herself. And I was like, no, actually, I want to know all about what happened with your nose. And let's flip this into a positive so that we can give a positive message about staying safe in the sun. And she was up for it. And I think it really worked and demonstrated kind of what we all go through. Even when we're experts, we can still second guess ourselves.
Hence why you need someone on the outside to be your cheerleader and just say, you know what, you should be feeling a bit more confident about what you bring to the table. Because it's really interesting. I once knew somebody that was, on the face of it, incredibly arrogant.
Did she have a big nose too? Stitches.
He didn't have a big nose. That was one of the things he didn't have that was big. But the ego, I mean, on the face of it, he had a massive ego. And he once turned around to somebody, and I overheard this conversation, and somebody had essentially accused him of being arrogant. And he turned around and he said, no, it's only arrogance if you can't back it up. And part of me thought, oh, but actually, in line with what Trisha's teachings are, actually, he's unsquashed himself and he's being unapologetic about it. So at what point does it stop being egotistical, arrogant fool? And at what point does it become, no, actually, unsquashing himself, which I found fascinating to consider and ponder. Did a lot of pondering on that.
Yeah, it's that awareness, isn't it? And Trisha goes on to talk about the conscious choices that we need to make in order to be seen and to be heard. And that was something that, she got me thinking, because sometimes you just kind of run out of steam on an idea. And I know you and I have talked about, personal branding. And to me, it's just who you are at that time. And that grows and changes. And I think it does also come back to who you surround yourself with. I mean, Trisha talks about that community, the You Are the Media, the John Esperians, previous, activists, Janine Coombs, going on about feminism and stuff like that. It's just fascinating that it really it brought up a whole heap of fresh curiosity for me to revisit what I was stuck on. It's not that I'm stuck ever to communicate, but what I really want to communicate. It's that importance and purpose of it rather than just doing it for doing its sake. So she's helped me. She won't know. I'll have to tell her.
So there we are. Does that sound like you? Are you turning up to the room and not showing yourself in your true colours, in your true self? Maybe it's time for you to think about unsquashing yourself. Please do, if you're listening to this in Apple Podcasts, click the 3 dots in the corner and hit follow if you're not already. That way, you can ensure you get the new episodes as they land in your library. Until next week then, on Thursday, when we will be making conversations count with Rob Cressy.